Hello, everyone. This is Janice, and this is my podcast in a series of reading section. And the section of reading series, I would like to introduce about why I'm doing this reading series is that um, I'm a person who loves to read books from time to time, and I learn my writing mostly by reading a lot. And I often find out that reading it aloud and reading it silently sometimes give a different kind of feelings and vibe when you're reading it. So, and because I actually enjoy reading books aloud sometimes, it just gives you another experience to read it silently. There is a lot of research talking about what is the difference on reading it silently and out loud, but this is not the topic of today. And yes, and that's why I would like to start this series because I do enjoy reading books sometimes aloud. And I want to share a chapter, like a prologue from a book called Discipline is Destiny: The Power of Self Control, written by Ryan Holiday. The reasons that I would like to share the chapter called it The Four Virtues. It's just only like, I think, 6 pages. And I think it's a good start and it kind of connect to my recent life. And so I think it is good for me to read about it. And I think that is a challenge that we face it every day. And so I think it's a really good reminder and why we read things, why we live the way we live, and all those kind of daily questions we ask about ourselves by starting to read this chapter. And yes, if you like it, please let me know. And soon we will start to read the chapter called The Four Virtues. The Four Virtues. It was long ago now that Hercules came to the crossroads. At a quiet intersection in the hills of Greece, in the shade of Novi pine trees, the great hero of Greek myth first met his destiny. Where exactly it was, or when, no one knows. We hear of this moment in the stories of Socrates. We can see it captured in the most beautiful art of the Renaissance. We can feel his bubbling energy, his dripping muscles, and his anguish in the classic Bach cantata. If John Adams had had his way in 1776, Hercules at the Crossroads would have been immortalized on the official seal of the newly founded United States. Because there, before the man's undying fame, before the 12 labors, before he changed the world, Hercules faced a crisis, one as life changing and real as any of us have ever faced. Where was he headed? Where was he trying to go? That's the point of the story. Alone, unknown, unsure, Hercules, like so many, did not know. Where the road diverged lay a beautiful goddess who offered him every temptation he could imagine. Adorned in finery, she promised him a life of ease. She swore he'd never taste want or unhappiness or fear or pain. Follow her, she said, and his every desire will be fulfilled. On the other path stood a sterner goddess in a pearl white robe. She made a quiet call. She promised it no rewards except those that came as a result of hard work. It would be a long journey, she said. There would be sacrifice. There would be scary moments. But it was a journey fit for a god. It would make him the person his ancestors meant him to be. Was this real? Did it really happen? If it's only a legend, does it matter? Yes, because this is a story about us, about our dilemma, about our own crossroads. For Hercules, the choice was between vice and virtue, the easy way and the hard way, the well trodden path and the road less traveled. We all face this choice. Hesitating only for a second, Hercules chose the one that made all the difference. He chose virtue. Virtue can seem old fashioned, yet virtue, artet, translate to something very simple and very timeless: excellency, moral, physical, mental. In the ancient world, virtue was comprised of four key components: courage, temperance, justice, wisdom. The touchstones of goodness. The philosopher King Marcus Aurelius called them. To millions, they are known as the cardinal virtues. Four near universal ideals adopted by Christianity and most of Western philosophy, but equally valid in Buddhism, Hinduism, and just about every other philosophy you can imagine. They are quoted cardinal. C.S. Lewis pointed out, not because they come down from church authorities, but because they originated from the Latin cardo or hinge. It's a pivotal stuff. It's the stuff that the door to the good life hands on. They are also our topic for this book and for this series. Four books, four virtues. One aim: to help you choose courage, bravery, fortitude, honor, sacrifice. Temperance, self control, moderation, composure, balance. Justice, fairness, service, fellowship, goodness, kindness. Wisdom, knowledge, education, truth, self reflection, peace. These are the key to a life of honor, of glory, of excellency in every sense. Character traits that John Steinberg perfectly described it as pleasant and desirable to their owner, and makes him perform acts of which he can be proud and with which he can be pleased. But the he must be taken to mean all of humankind. There was no feminine version of the word virtus in Rome. Virtue wasn't male or female, it just was. It still is. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if you're physically strong or painfully shy, a genius or of an average intelligence. Virtue is a universal imperative. The virtues are interrelated and inseparable. Yes, each is distinct from the others. Doing the right thing almost always takes courage, just as discipline is impossible without the wisdom to know what is worth choosing. What good is courage if not applied to justice? What good is wisdom if it doesn't make us more modest? North, south, east, west, the four virtues are a kind of compass. There's a reason that the 4 points on a compass are called the cardinal directions. They guide us, they show us where we are and what is true. Aristotle described the virtue as a kind of craft, something to pursue just as one pursues the mastery of any profession or skill. We become builders by building, and we become harpists by playing the harp, he wrote. Similarly, then, we become just by doing just actions, temperate by doing temperate actions, brave by doing brave actions. Virtue is something we do, it's something we choose. Not once. For Hercules, Crossroads was not a singular event. It is a daily challenge, one we face not once, but constantly, repeatedly. We will be selfish or selfless, brave or afraid, strong or weak, wise or stupid. Will we cultivate a good habit or a bad one, courage or cowardice, the bliss of ignorance or the challenge of a new idea? Stay the same or grow, the easy way or the right way? And this is the chapter of the four virtues in the book of Discipline is Destiny, written by Ryan Holiday. And I loved it. And I think if you're struggling with decision making, it helps. It's just asking you what is important to you, what is the most value to you when you make a decision. I'm not sure if you have that mindset of about virtue or the cardinal directions it mentioned, but I think if you are someone who's searching for yourself, that helps. Let's say not only the modest choice you're doing, but how much alignment you're doing within your choice. Like, what is your most valued value you hold it inside yourself? What would you can keep up for like even doing for 5 years, 10 years? You might feel like you still have some kind of passion or like you can endure that. I think it's important. And yes, I read it when I was kind of struggling. And as it says, it's a daily challenge. So I think from time to time, I still need that reminder for myself. And that's why I think it would be a nice starting point to reading this chapter for this series. As we do this thinking process every day, sometimes every moment, and that is why we read and why we think and why we are testing and living every day. And I hope you enjoyed it, this little chapter. And forgive me if I have any pronunciation mistakes. And yes, let me know if you like it or not. And I might see you next time. And just another forehand news. The next chapter might be the same book of another chapter, or it will be someone I invited for a podcast for this series. And we were sharing about like poems and our reading habits and stuff like that. And if you're interested, you can let me know as well. Because this, as always, is my trial podcast. And yes, it always experimenting. So thank you for listening. And I hope to see you someday somewhere around. And before that, please have a nice day. And yes, I'll see you later. By sound, by voice, by any kind of form. Bye.